monthly regular feature of organizing webinars, and especially our members are uh, invited and given the opportunity to share their thoughts on the subjects related with the law and technology. And in this 9th series, we have one of our very active member, young active member, Prachi Mishra, Assistant Professor of Law at University of Energy and Petroleum, Dehradun. The theme she has chosen is ethics and technology, the need of the hour. Friends, we all know that we are in the thick of the technology. Our entire life, whether it is professional, personal, business, is now driven by technology. Switch off the mics, which can be started when we have a discussion session, so that there is no interruption in between and the speaker can seamlessly give her presentation. So I'm just referring to the role of technology in our life. And now the technology is at such a advanced stage that the possibilities of its abuses cannot be ruled out, or rather we have been witnessing many instances. The recent one is deep fake. So there are many other instances where the technology like blockchain, or especially currently the artificial intelligence, generative artificial intelligence, has many issues. And as the technology is developing, we need to have a suitable, proper, and effective regulatory and ethical standards. The ethical standards are self-driven. The regulatory mechanism can be imposed by the legislators, the policymakers, but those who are playing with technology, those who are promoting and doing research in the area of technology, they have to draw the line that what we will do and what we ought not to do, so that the technology is not misused. And on the contrary, the technology is used for the welfare, for the promotion, for the good of this humanity. So what are those ethical standards? I think Prachi will highlight those standards which those who are stakeholders in the technology, they should take care of that. Globally, this debate is going on. It is not a new debate that we are igniting. Globally, world over, the major players in the technology, whether they are Google or Microsoft or Oracle or Deloitte or Amazon, you name any major player, they also seriously think that yes, we must sit together. Even the UN is also working on the projects where to uh, draw a framework. I am also associated with the Global Government Blockchain Association of USA, a leading voice in blockchain technology, to frame the regulatory and ethical standards. I am member of the Ethical Standards Committee. So this debate of having ethical standards for emerging technologies is very, very significant in view of the expanding horizon of the technological outreach. Today, Prachi would dwell upon that, and we will also have our views or share our opinion during discussion session. Over to you, Shivani.
Thank you, sir, for introducing us to the session. Now, I feel honored to introduce you all to our distinguished speaker of today's session, Ms. Prachi Mishra. Ms. Prachi Mishra is passionate legal academician with nearly 4 years of professional experience, with a deep interest in technology's intersection with legal norms, especially in the fields of artificial intelligence and blockchain. She has served as an assistant professor at prominent institutions such as Symbiosis Law College, Pune, and ICFAI Institute, Dehradun. Her academic background reflects a comprehensive knowledge of the subject with a PhD from ICFI Law School focusing on regulatory analysis of AI and blockchain in healthcare within smart cities. Further strengthening her academic foundation, Ms. Mishra has qualified UGC NET and possesses a Master's in Constitutional Laws from Amity University and BBA LLB Honours from the University of Petroleum and Energy Studies. Her endeavor to remain updated with global trends is evident from her diverse certificate courses spanning topics like new trends in law, AI, and law authorized Lund University, Sweden. Intellectual property rights in the digital age from St. Petersburg State University, and more. She has also completed the course on competing in the AI age from Harvard Business School with scholarship. Ms. Mishra has also delivered virtual lecture at Vietnam National University, adjudging the Anand Swarup Memorial International Moot Court Competition and being honored as the best teacher by the ICFI Law School. She is an active member of the Global Academy and has held vital roles such as faculty convener at ICFI University's Center for Cyber Law and Innovation and the Center for Human Rights and Humanitarian Law. Her scholarly contributions encompass a variety of papers published in renowned Scopus, UGC Care, and peer-reviewed journals and conferences. Key topics she has addressed include intellectual property rights in the era of AI, rehabilitation of prisoners, and cybersecurity challenges. Additionally, she has also been a co-editor of a book titled Cyber Law and Emerging Trends in Information Technology. With a comprehensive participation record in both national and international seminars and conferences, Ms. Mishra's papers have covered diverse themes from data protection to climate change. Now, I would want to welcome Ms. Mishra to deliver her lecture.
Thank you so much, Shivani. Can I have the sharing rights?
Shivani, you can make her host also, or you can share. For rest of the session, she can be host.
Or you can also enable in the setting as okay.
Yeah, fine.
So is my screen visible?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Visible.
Okay. Now, starting with my lecture, which is primarily on ethics and emerging technologies, the need of the hour. So, as Bhandari sir also discussed when he introduced the theme, and also it is a well-known fact till now that the emerging technologies, including artificial intelligence, have been evolving at a very rapid pace. And this is fundamentally altering the entire world at a global level, which is impacting us on the daily personal interaction level to the large scale economic and social structures as well, because it is not only impacting us, or the emerging technologies is not only helping us basically to smooth our work when we are at a professional level, but at the same time we have a lot of structures, or we have a lot of facilities or sophisticated technologies which is also helping us to carry out our day-to-day or personal level activities as well. So this transformation is basically bringing with us not only the advantages that it has, but it is also bringing us with a lot of complex challenges. So the reason for choosing this topic for today's lecture is basically driven by this urgent need in order to address the challenges that are arising in the emerging technologies more responsibly, so that not only we can have the opportunities that it is providing us, but at the same time the risk is minimized to the extent possible. So as we integrate increasingly with these sophisticated technologies into a society, it is also required that we consider not just the technical and the economic implications that are there. We also need to make sure that uh, the ethical implications that are there, or the ethical challenges or the ethical dimensions that are there, also are considered not only after the technology has been made, but when the technology is being made. So this necessity basically stems from the potential of these technologies to influence critical aspects of the human lives as well. So now, before we move forward, I would like to briefly first uh, discourse upon the word ethics, or the fundamental of ethics, and its importance in the technology, as in we have been discussing a lot about the technological influence on other sectors. But when we talk about ethics and technology, we have certain key aspects only, like transparency, accountability, algorithmic bias. So we basically understand ethics in terms of this whenever we are talking in terms of technology. However, it is actually important to understand certain ethical theories as well, which are very well applied to the emerging technologies and its working. So I'll be discussing that as well. And then we move forward to other related subtopics. So at its core, So at the core, when we are talking about ethics, it is basically philosophical understanding of morality. Like we understand it whenever we are making, or whenever we are looking into the decision making aspect or human conduct, we always go for one of the aspects of ethics. Now, why do we go there? Because this particular word is basically concerned with understanding to us what is right, what is wrong, what is good, and what is bad with regard to application of moral principles in order to govern our behavior. So now in this context, when we apply this entire matter to the emerging technologies, so ethics plays a very crucial role in guiding the development and the application of these emerging technologies. It also provides us, or it also facilitates in navigating the moral landscapes that could be there or that are existing in order to shape these technologies, so that a balance could be maintained whenever we are looking into the benefits that are there against the potential risks or the harms that the emerging technology poses upon us. So ethics, whenever we relate ethics to the technological part, then we do not just see it as a static set of rules which would be governing us as to what is right, what is wrong, but it is basically, it forms a dynamic field that would evolve with our understanding of technology's impact on the individuals, technology's impact on the societies, and also the technology's impact on the environment. So as such, it challenges us basically continuously to reassess our values, to reassess the principles that are there in the light of the new development of these emerging technologies. Now, on this note, there's an increasing importance as well with regard to ethics in the realm of technology. So there are many factors that are basically driving the importance of ethics into the technologies, like complex moral dilemmas. So the emerging technologies often present a lot of complex moral dilemmas that justify easy answers. So for instance, artificial intelligence algorithms are there, which basically enhance the efficiency and convenience. But then at the same time, it is also raising issues of privacy. It is also raising issues of biasness and autonomy. Then the impact of technology like artificial intelligence is, we all know it, it is very vast, it is very pervasive, which is basically affecting the numerous aspects of the society. It has invaded almost all the spheres, almost all the arenas of the society. Now, this widespread influence that is there, this basically necessitates a careful consideration of ethical implications, which so as to avoid any sort of consequences that could happen. So this entire thing would fall under the scale and scope of impact whenever we are talking about this factor, thereby driving the importance of ethics in the technology. Then with regard to the rapid pace of technological advancement that is there, that often outstrips the development of legal and regulatory frameworks. So the ethical considerations are there basically to help us to fill these gaps that are created, or the vacuum that has been creating, thereby providing guidance where there is lack of formal rules that has not been established, which is a very obvious thing, because since we have these emerging technologies which are evolving almost every day, so we would require a strong stringent framework. So now in the absence of framework, we cannot just assume that we would be working as per our own needs, or we would be working as per our own diligence. So these ethical guidelines or these ethical principles are there for the time being, or are actually there, who would facilitate the regulatory framework, and in their absence would try to manage the entire area so that it doesn't encroach upon the human rights or on the basic rights of the human beings. Then whenever we talk about public trust and acceptance, so the ethical considerations that are there, they're also considered important for building the public trust in the emerging technologies. And it is a very obvious thing that people more likely would embrace those technologies wherein they believe that these technologies have been developed and would be used in a manner that would go parallel, or that would align with their moral values, societal values, and would not encroach upon their private rights, right? Or they would more believe to those technologies which have set ethical norms or ethical guidelines, thereby showcasing that the particular development is not only focusing on the profit making, but at the same time, it is also respecting the private rights or the human rights, and are adhering to the ethical principles or the ethics that are existing. The next factor is the global implications. So most of the emerging technologies that are existing, they all have global implications which are affecting people at large, and especially to people with different cultures and jurisdictions. So these ethical framework basically helps to navigate all these cross-cultural uh, and international challenges that we face, and at the same time it also helps in promoting a more inclusive and more equitable technological future, because whenever we see any technological development, we do not see it from one particular nation's aspect. We always see it at a global level. What impact will it have at a global level? So while uh, while we have this particular global vision, we also need to make sure that we are respecting all the cultures that are existing worldwide, not just in respect of a particular nation. Now, moving on with the discussion of some ethical theories that are there, and then how are they being applied to the technology. So I'll be just discussing all of it very briefly. So talking about the journey of this ethical theories that are there from historical inception to modern interpretations, we have a rich knowledge or rich uh, tapestry that would reflect the humanity evolving to the understanding of the morality, to the understanding of the decision making. And initially, whenever we used to talk about ethical theories, they were primarily concerned with human behavior and only with the social interactions. However, as the time passed, they have been adapted, and these ethical theories have been extended to address more of the moral implications with respect to the technological advancements. So the ethical theories has been divided on the basis of the timeline that has been there. As in, like I discussed right now, that earlier we used to just focus on the human behavior and the social interactions, and then after that, now we also look into the moral implications of the technological advancements as well. So on this particular basis, we have divided ethical theories into classical and modern ethical theories. So the first classical ethical theory that we talk about is virtue ethics, which is also known as Aristotelian ethics. As the name says, it was propounded by Aristotle, wherein this particular theory would emphasize more on the virtues or the moral character. So if we apply this particular theory in the context of technology, so it would translate or it would more focus on the character and the intentions of those who would be creating and who would be deploying the technology, rather than just the consequences of the technology itself. So virtue ethics would basically advocate for, if seen for artificial intelligence development field, that all the AI developers who are involved into the development of a particular AI software, they should embody virtues like honesty, integrity, social responsibility. For example, an ethical AI development would necessitate transparency whenever there will be any algorithmic preparation or in algorithmic processes, and also would also expect accountability for all the AI decisions. So whenever we are talking about accountability for AI decisions, it means that the virtue ethics says that the algorithm should be made in such a way that it not only would portray the decisions in a virtual manner, but at the same time, it is also possible for the person to know how that decision came into being, right? So this is what the virtue ethics theory talks about. Next theory is deontology theory, which is also known as Kantian ethics. As the name says, that Immanuel Kant basically introduced this idea of duty and intention under the garb of deontology ethical theory. And if this particular theory is applied to technology, then it would argue that there are certain actions with the technology that would inherently be right, and some of them would be inherently be wrong. So regardless of their outcomes, right? So this particular principle can be seen in the aspects of data privacy laws like GDPR. So these regulations basically imply a duty to protect the individual's privacy. It would mandate actions like securing consent for data collection. So regardless of the benefits that might be derived from the data analysis, this particular theory would also focus on the uh, duty or the intention part of the technological development, as in what all the like the AI developers or the people who would have these technologies in hand to operate, what will be their theories, what will be their intention when operating it. So this particular theory can also be applied whenever we are talking about some or the other technological developments in the field of biotechnology, in the field of military, wherein these technologies, if not handled in a with a good intention or not handled responsibly, might create a lot of hue and cry or might create a lot of harm. So this particular theory says that whenever you are giving any such responsibility to a person, then the duty and the intention of that person needs to be very much certain and needs to be very much ethical as to with what intention the software was made and with what intention the software is being used. Next classical ethical theory is utilitarianism, which was propounded by Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill. So this particular theory basically asserts that the morality of the action is based on its outcome. So when we apply this theory in technology, it means that when you are assessing the nature of ethics, then based on the benefits or the harms which are we see it based on the benefits or the harms that a particular technology will have on us. So utilitarianism is basically evident in decisions to deploy digital technologies for greater good. For example, by using big data analytics in public health to track and to control any sort of pandemics that comes up. So weighing the privacy concerns against the potential to save lives. So utilitarianism theory anyway talks about maximum good. So this particular theory can be seen into the usage of the technologies, which is the best example is the Aadhaar case, wherein a lot of the Disha app that was there. So there are a lot of apps, medical apps that are there, which is collecting a lot of data, and especially during the pandemic when COVID came, there were apps that were collecting the data in order to figure out the possible number of infected people around you. So this particular theory can be applied in the usage of these technologies, wherein it is mostly focusing good. And in however, in this particular process, the privacy concern or the private rights somewhere gets sidelined. So this particular theory had this drawback, which was discussed by many of the experts in many of the prominent articles as well. Now, when we move on to the modern ethical theories, so the first theory is ethics of care, which basically emphasizes on the importance of context and relationship in moral decision making. So when we apply this particular theory in technology, it would encourage a more of a user-centric approach wherein it would consider the needs and the impacts of various stakeholders. So this approach would basically emphasize on designing technologies that are more accessible, that are more user-friendly, and are more sensitive to the diverse needs of different user groups. So, uh, for example, like ensuring digital platforms that are more accessible to people with disabilities as well. Then the next theory is postmodern ethics. So this approach basically challenges the universal ethical principles and argues for more context-specific ethics. So if we apply this particular theory in technology, it would suggest the need for more flexible and adaptable ethical guidelines that can be considered by diverse cultural and social contexts as well. So postmodern ethics can inform the development of the technological policies that are more sensitive to cultural differences, thereby recognizing that uh, the principle of one size fits all approach is not suitable whenever we see a globally connected world. So these were the theories that had a great amount of impact and do still have a great amount of impact whenever we are working with the technology and the development of the technology. So the things that we assume are actually existing is basically these theories which are driving through, right? So similar example can be seen like in constitutional law, we have doctrine of emanation, and this particular doctrine is responsible for bringing in all the rights to Article 21, right? Same is the case here that these are the principles or the theories which are behind the operation of the technologies whenever we are focusing on the implementation. Now, whenever we talk about like now, before we are moving forward with regard to the role of ethics, there are also certain technological advancements that have been there. Like Bhandari sir in his overview of the theme also said that we have a lot of emerging technologies that are there more prominently, like artificial intelligence, which has shaped the numerous sectors like healthcare, like finance, transportations, and its capabilities have been ranging from a lot of aspects, like from predictive analysis to autonomous decision making. But these technologies have also come up with certain challenges like algorithmic bias, like job displacement, privacy concerns. Like if we use artificial intelligence in the recruitment, then it would help with regard to streamlining the hiring, but at the same time, it might perpetuate biases if it is not ethically guided. Same is the case with another emerging technology like biotechnology, which is particularly talking about genetics and biomedicine. And when technologies like there is one technology like CRISPR, which is offering possibility of eradicating all the genetic diseases, but then at the same time, it is raising ethical questions with regard to gene editing, with regard to eugenics, with regard to altering of human biology. Similarly, there is another technology of digital surveillance, which would include facial recognition, which would include data tracking. So these technologies not only do help us a lot, like this digital surveillance would help us with regard to the tracing of or getting the evidences. It would also help us in different sectors. But at the same time, all these technologies are getting here or are bringing with us a lot of complex challenges for which it is always expected that there will be certain ethics that will be followed, like AI ethics, like bioethics, which would talk about or which would ensure that the research and the applications that are being done, they are respecting human dignity, they are respecting the genetic diversity. Then we also have surveillance ethics, we have cross-disciplinary approach, which talks about that whenever we are building up any technological advancement or going for a technological uh, advancement, then at the same time, it is required that we involve multiple stakeholders with diverse knowledge, like ethicists, like technologists, policymakers, public stakeholders. So now the issue here is that the cross-disciplinary approach, although is saying diverse stakeholders, however, it has been seen that those stakeholders, among those stakeholders, a person who would just be focusing on the ethical guidelines is missing, because it is usually expected or it is usually seen that the ethical guidelines would either be handled by the policymaker or by the legal person who is looking into the legislative frameworks. However, it is to be noticed that the ethical guidelines needs to be given the same importance as a technical expert would be giving importance to all the technicalities, to all the algorithmic processes, as a legal professional would be focusing on all the regulatory frameworks, right? So there are certain ethical principles which we all have been seeing, like transparency, which would demand openness, and would demand as to how a particular software or a development, technological development would function, for what it will be used, for how it will be used with regard to the society. So it is actually very important whenever we are dealing with AI algorithm, especially where the users needs to understand how and why a particular AI decision is to be made. Same is the case with accountability, which would ensure that the creators or the distributors and the users of the technology are responsible for their actions, and are impacting, and how they are impacting the technology needs to be taken care of. Like, for example, in AI driven financial services, it means that the companies should be responsible for the decisions that would be made by the algorithms, including any errors or biases. So accountability basically is focusing on that in case of any error, in case of any harm, there should be some or the other organization or the person who is to be answered for, or who would be answerable with regard to it. Then we have privacy and data protection. So one of the example of privacy and data protection would be the biotechnological research, which would involve a lot of human data. So they need to comply with certain stringent data privacy regulations that would be existing in their nation, in order to protect individual genetic uh, diversity or information. Similarly, we have a lot of ethical principles like safety and security, societal well-being. We also look into the fact that environmental well-being is looked into, public engagement is there, like public consultations needs to be conducted whenever we are talking about the development of smart city projects, or in order to ensure that the standards of the community are met. So these are certain examples which are coherent to the ethical principles that we have been discussing for so long. Now, there are a lot of ethical challenges. However, I have summarized it to just three of them given the time constraint. So, whenever we talk about data privacy, I won't be dealing it in much detail, although. So, the data privacy is one of the major concerns that has been there and has been a lot in the news lately. So, the I just remember there has been 2 or 3 lectures by by Professor Bhandari himself, who has quoted, which I do not remember right now, who has quoted one fact with regard to what amount of data every day is being processed. So, uh, referring to that, there is actually a lot amount of data which is collected, which is stored, and then which is processed on a daily basis whenever we are talking about personal data. So now this raises a lot of ethical concern including the extent of data collection, concern regarding the consent mechanism, concern regarding the potential of misuse or unauthorized access. For example, the implementation of DPDP Act 2023 in India is considered as one of the initiative, or underscores the need for stringent data privacy regulations, which would be reflecting a global trend whenever we would be talking about safeguarding the personal data. However, it is still not being in operation since we do not have the date of enforcement for the same. This data privacy concern can further be explained by one of the case study on data privacy, that was the Aadhaar system in India, which is a biometric database. So it illustrates the complexity of data privacy issues. So while providing a unique identity that would facilitate access to the government services, it would also raise a lot of concern about the privacy and the data security. So this particular debate around the Aadhaar underscores the need for a robust privacy protections in large-scale digital identity system. However, I would basically suggest in this particular case study that if this entire system is clubbed with the blockchain technology, then to some extent this privacy concern might be mitigated. Then another challenge is the security part. So the security challenge would include protecting systems from unauthorized access and ensuring that they're resilient to attacks. So the increased connectivity and the resilience of on AI systems basically would amplify to a larger extent with regard to the risks of cyber attacks, which can basically lead to data breaches, can lead to financial losses, can lead to erosion of public trust. Now, one of the related case study is 2016 cyber security incident, which involved Indian banks, wherein 3.2 million debit cards were compromised, which highlighted the security vulnerability in digital financial infrastructure. So this case would emphasize the importance of ethical consideration in ensuring robust security measures to protect sensitive personal data. And the last challenge is the algorithmic bias, which basically would uh, be a critical ethical challenge where the artificial intelligence system basically exhibit biases that can lead to unfair or discriminatory outcomes. So this can occur due to biased training data or flawed algorithm design. In India, for instance, the AI applications in public services are expected to be carefully scrutinized in order to make sure that they do not perpetuate on existing social biases or inequalities, right? One of the example with regard to AI biases can be seen with regard to employment. So if we use an AI which is hiring uh, for the hiring processes per se, then in that particular case, the ethical security scrutiny needs to be very stringent. Reason being that where AI is increasingly employed in recruitments, it's crucial to ensure that these systems are not reinforcing societal biases. Now, whenever we are talking about societal biases, it would include any sort of discrimination that is there, and that is basically governed by the bias which will be there in the trainer's mind as well. Apart from this, few of the examples with regard to demonstrating ethical considerations, because we not only have evolved a lot, we have also considered the ethical considerations in the technology. So one of the important or one of the basic step is the enactment of DPTP Act. Then we also have the Aadhaar case that was there, which changed or which brought a lot of change in the digital technological era. Then the case of Cambridge Analytica was one of the prominent case that had a great amount of impact globally, because Cambridge Analytica scandal involved the misuse of Facebook user data in order to influence the political campaigns that was there, which affected millions globally, including India. So this case basically reflects the ethical dilemma with regard to the personal data and the consent mechanism. Further, this particular data would also demonstrate the consequences that arise whenever we are neglecting ethical considerations. Like I mentioned earlier, that whenever there is a panel discussion or a multiple stakeholder meeting, we need to have one stakeholder who is totally focusing on the ethical consideration instead of bringing ethical consideration as a subtopic or a sub consideration. It needs to be one of the major consideration. So these cases are basically showcasing how ethical considerations are important whenever we are talking about the technological advancements. Now, moving to the end, this is there are certain global efforts that has been taken up whenever we talk about few of the countries. So here I have taken India, EU, and US. I won't be talking about each of it in detail. However, like in India, we have AI ethics guidelines, which basically would emphasize on the responsible use of AI development. It would focus on transparency, it focuses on accountability, and also about fairness. Further, these guidelines would also address biasness in AI and all the ethical considerations that are there. So the main purpose of AI ethics guidelines is to build up a balance between the innovation and at the same time make sure that the ethical guidelines are being adhered to. Then we have the new DPTP Act 2023. One of the provisions, or there are few of the provisions which supports the ethical guidelines for that regard. Then another, we have National Strategy for Artificial Intelligence in India, which basically aims to leverage artificial intelligence for societal benefits while also ensuring the responsible use of AI. This particular strategy would emphasize on the research and development in artificial intelligence whenever it is talking about the formation of any new technology. Then we also have a proposed Digital India Act, uh, in which there are few of the provisions which are also envisioning to promote technological advancements in different sectors while also ensuring the ethical challenges do not come up, like data security, then ethical use of technology, etc. When we focus on the European Union, we have GDPR, which has a great amount of impact globally and also encourages principles like transparency, accountability in data handling. Then we have the newly passed AI Act in European Union, which categorizes artificial intelligence systems based on the risk and also imposes a lot of obligations accordingly, thereby showcasing the accountability principle. This particular AI Act also tries to mitigate risks that are associated with artificial intelligence, which basically focuses on high risk and unacceptable AI applications. So whenever any AI application comes into it, so the scrutiny that they have to go through is the GDPR provisions and then this EU AI Act. So these provisions usually go in parallel and are not in conflict with each other. Then lastly, when we talk about the United States, there are a lot of provisions that are there. However, two of the highlights that I found interesting was with regard to the AI policy principles, that is by the information technology industry, which was published, which advocates on the responsible development and deployment of AI, and also the National AI Initiative Act, which was signed into law in 2021, whose aim is basically to accelerate AI research and policy development in United States. Now, moving on to the last part of the lecture, till in the entire lecture we basically understood as to what were the ethical challenges. Then we also went through, before we understood the ethical challenges, we also came to know that there are ethical theories like the classical ethical theory and postmodern ethical theory or modern ethical theories, which have been applicable on the advancement or on the formation of the technology at each and every steps. Then we also went through what are the global efforts that are being made and eventually what are the guidelines or the initiatives that are there. As it was discussed earlier, that the main aim of ethical guidelines is also to fill up the vacuum or the gap that comes up in the absence of the legislative framework. So same is the case what we have discussed till now. So now when I move to the end of the lecture, I have certain suggestions that I came up with when I have been researching on this particular topic. First is with regard to the ethical AI framework, which wherein I suggest that a proper ethical AI framework should be formed, which would integrate principles like transparency, fairness, accountability, and these frameworks should not be very stringent. They should be adaptable with the evolving AI advancement and also keeping in mind the diverse cultural context. Then building up data privacy and security designs, wherein if we implement privacy and security by design principles in all the technological development, then this approach will ensure that the privacy and the security are not the afterthoughts, as in when the technology has been built, but they are basically the integral part of the development process itself. Then we have diverse stakeholder engagement, which somewhere I have realized that this platform Galter is also doing that. As in, we have had a lot of panel discussion, which includes diverse stakeholders, which have been talking about all the important aspects of it. However, and then considering all of it and coming up with the suggestions. So this diverse ethical engagement basically advocates for this similar platforms for dialogues and collaborations among technologists, ethicists, policymakers, etc. Then having ethical technology in the education and training. wherein I say or advocate that if we integrate ethical consideration into STEM education, as in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education and professional training, then this will also prepare the coming up generations of technologists to approach innovation with an ethical mindset. So it would not be only the work of the legal frameworks, legal people, or the policy makers itself. It would also be inbuilt into the technologists who would be coming up in the generation while making the or building up with the algorithms itself. And lastly, we have the public awareness participation, wherein uh, there is an increase in the need of public awareness and participation with regard to the discussions about the technology, ethics, and then informed public discourse that can actually guide the ethical technology development and promote responsible usage. So these are some of the suggestions that I have come up with. And with this, I end up with the presentation. And I hope, sir, I did not take too long.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your valuable insights. It was indeed a great presentation. Now the session is open to questions and discussion.
Nicely within limited time frame, and the issues raised by her are very important, especially the privacy, security, and algorithm bias. I was just talking when we got disconnected that in America, certain banks they discouraged the grant of loans to African Americans because of their racial uh, discrimination, and the algorithms which were framed to identify the uh, loanees entitlement was in such a way that their reports were fabricated, or rather created to their disadvantage, and the loans were not granted. The matter finally went to the court, and the court imposed a fine on those banks who deliberately created the algorithm bias. So these are the real threats. They are not just imaginary threats. And privacy is a major concern. How the Cambridge Analytica she has referred, how the Facebook and other social media platforms have gathered the data. All our data is already with them, and how they manipulate that data for their commercial use. So, to my mind, it is the huge commercial interest or exploitation of the technology for commercial gains is one of the major factor where the technology or the data collected is not used for that specific purposes. That is why we have a European law, we have a law in Singapore, my friend, and you may tell about it. Or now in India, we also have the act, and soon we are going to release the rules so that the act can be made operational. Uh, Thank you, Prachi, for a really wonderful and thought-provoking session. And you rightly mentioned that Galter is a unique platform. We all are associated with that. Our new friend, Dr. Vijay Kumar Behera, principal of Dr. Global Law Institute, Ambedkar Global Law Institute at Tirupati, has recently joined. At Galter, we are trying to create an ecosystem with the help of our global stakeholders, global members, to educate, to create awareness about the impact of technology in our life and supportive laws and ethical framework. So we are happy and we feel satisfied that on the platform of Galter, we are doing our responsible obligation or role toward the society. Thank you, Prachi. Now the session is open for question answer. We can have 10-15 minutes. Those who want to participate are most welcome. Uh, you can put your question in chat also, or you can raise the hand and uh, make your comments or questions. Please come forward. We want it should be a real debate, not just one-way traffic. Let it be an interactive session. Yeah, anybody? Uh, Professor Andrew, would you like to comment or say something?
Yes, I just want to add on to the Singapore AI standards that just now Professor Bhandari and also the presenter has also briefly mentioned about the standards. Yeah, Singapore is also embarking on this, especially on the ethical issues that concerning AI standards to be used in technology and other application. So in Singapore, we have actually have the Singapore AI Standards Committee set up by industry players and also overseen by the Singapore government representatives that continue to improve and drive some of these initiatives. One of the early frameworks I was involved in when I was with the association, I was also gathering industry players to participate in AI ethical standards and moving towards a sort of industry acceptable practices and guidelines for the industry players to follow. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Vijay, since you are our new member, so please introduce yourself and also share your views or thoughts.
Yes, sir. Good morning, each and everyone, the participants. So very recently I joined and I came to know regarding this Galter from one of my guide, one of my research supervisor, Professor Dr. Igwal Kishore. So I'm very much happy by involving myself this Galter family. And Madam Prachi Mishra, I am very much appreciating her presentation, sir. It's very good, as you rightly said, that it's a thought-provoking. Nowadays, this AI is a growing subject. So with this, I would like to invite all the youngsters do research work on these things, sir. It will be benefit to. It will give benefit to the society and to the legal fraternity. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Vijay. Please keep on participating. We have
Yes.
a series of programs in pipeline for the year 2024. And soon
Yes, sir.
we will have a general meeting of all the members. We are close
Yes.
to 100 members, and we will soon plan a general meeting and seek opinion and suggestions from all the members how we can plan our calendar for 2024. So thank you very much. Shakuntala Gowda ma'am, would you like to participate? Pratima, I think few members.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Prachi ma'am. I think she shared a very good this ethical view. We are not totally aware about this technological ethicals, which is she shared with us. And thank you, Bhandari sir. And also, I will say one thing here. Dr. Vijay sir is my colleague, and we are happy to see her. see him. And thank you, Andrew sir. He also said something about their national AI technology and their rules and regulation. And thank you very much, Bhandari sir, who is always share something new and new items and new our emerging problems which are shared with us, and it's really very informative to us. And thank you again, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you, our coordinator Shivani ma'am. She is so sweet and very nicely conducting this webinar.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Dr. Shakuntala, madam. You can also participate in this
Yes,
webinar. Actually, this is open for all the members. And
exactly.
I have already invited names for next 6 months. Those who
Sir.
want to volunteer can
Okay.
share their names and the tentative month in which they would like to give their presentation. It is a
Definitely,
monthly
sir.
feature.
Definitely. I
Monthly
will also
feature.
share my
Yeah,
view.
we have
Yes,
with
sir.
us our one learned member, Dr. Rajesh Methi from Jaipur. He is a founder of Indic School of Jurisprudence, and he
Sir.
is engaged in promoting the Indian values and
Sir.
Indian jurisprudential thoughts, which are very much relevant in the modern times,
Sir,
uh, and which sync with the policy of our present government. Our Honorable Prime Minister is putting a lot of emphasis on rekindling or recreating the Indian culture and ethos. So I would request Dr. Rajesh Methi to please share his views or comments or queries, whatever.
Thanks a lot, sir. Such a wonderful advanced topic today we discussed. And I think that next decade will work on this one, how we can regulate to AI, and it will put an impact on all stakeholders. So salute to, first of all, Prachi for putting this one, insightness about this one. And just you told about that one, it's an era of decolonization or just developing the
Right,
native laws.
right.
So we people are trying to develop a sense of humor or consciousness about these one. And Galter is putting a new insightness to us to understand very advanced topic. So my one query is that one, just we are started to ponder about this one advanced things. So are we going, Professor Bhandari, are we going to do something else to take next action after the discussion with the help of Galter or likely minded organization? Okay, we can start to some policy think about some policy making or some intervention to the government to draft something else. So my question to you also, and Prachis would like to suggest something else. So we would like to listen to her also for this one.
Yeah,
Yes,
Prachi, would you like to tell something about how
So I
would you
would just,
respond to Rajesh suggestion?
sir, I would just request Rajesh sir to please repeat what he's just said. So
Just
because
I'm telling about that one. Today you put a very deep
yes, sir.
insightness to us. So would you suggest something else? What can be a next action on the basis of Galter, or we on the basis of we people, and we can associate to the likely minded organization. So just you, if you have any idea, we can
Sir,
proceed.
actually, I had one when I was suggesting with regard to public engagement part. One of my suggestion was that wherein I realized that yes, Ganter does these things, but now just one thing that we can go for the next year is whenever we are having these panel discussions or any of such engagement on these platforms, we have a lot of new and innovative ideas. However, we do not make a proper report of it, which we can actually further share it so that it can have a greater impact. So this is just one of my suggestions that we do have a lot of engagements or panel discussions or group discussion, and the stakeholders that Bhandari sir brings up has diverse knowledge in almost all the fields. So what I would suggest is that if we could make a proper report of all those innovative suggestions that we have, like you have you are from Indic School of Jurisprudence, so you might have a lot of innovative suggestions with regard to the ethical guidelines specifically. Then there are a lot of people like Ingrid ma'am is there who is working specifically in blockchain technologies. So if we combine all of these suggestions and then if we come up with a framework, I think that would be a very innovative and a very good framework that we can actually come up with. Because all these discussions are very much insightful and very much innovative whenever I have heard from these eminent speakers. So this could be one of my suggestions from the side of GALTER.
Thanks
you,
a lot.
Prachi,
And over to Professor Bhandari.
Thank you, Prachi, for suggesting the recording of those new ideas and innovative practices. I endorse your views, and I would request Dr. Rajesh to kindly send your plan of action, how you want the GALTER and even your school, or we can engage other institutions also. As of now, we have MOU with 4 overseas institutions and 6 Indian universities and institutions. So we have a good network and good connections. And 2-3 universities in India have shown their interest in signing MOU. They are already in process. So definitely we can explore the new and innovative practices which specifically the India can offer to the world, and we can plan a charter of those activities and the way in which they can be pursued, not just a list, but the modus operandi, how we can, say, for example, when it is a case of privacy, what could be the roadmap for ensuring the privacy, both legally as well as ethically. In that process, we can also explore the traditional Indian values. Because when it is a question of ethics, I think India has a lot of suggestions and a lot of initiatives to offer to the world. So definitely I agree with you. Please share in the mail the detailed plan, and we will discuss it again on the GALTER platform. We will invite suggestions from, let us have a broad-based discussions, and we will definitely put it into action. Good idea, good suggestion. Thank you for that. We have one more, I think, new attendee, Lisa, as the name is shown in on the screen. Can I ask Lisa ma'am to introduce yourself and participate if you are interested? The name shown on the screen is Lisa. I think she is joining from mobile Galaxy S9. Or Shivani, till she respond. Shivani, Ocha, you are, sorry,
Yes,
you are, yeah. So anybody who wants to participate, or we can, I think Sheetal was there. Sheetal is our member advocate, and I think he has gone offline.
So he was not able to join. He texted me that.
Maybe.
When I asked her to join.
Anyway, so Lisa is, can you listen to me, Lisa ma'am? Is your, I think your mic is on. Anyway.
So she is not connected with the audio itself.
Okay, fine. Anyway, I think it was a good session. Over to Shivani. Can we conclude it?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm sorry, there was a technical glitch and we lost connection with some of our members. Anyway, over to you, Shivani.
Thank you, sir. Now that we have reached the end of today's session, I deem it a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks of this informative session. As William Arthur Ward rightly said, feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a present and not giving it. Today, I take this opportunity to express my deepest sense of gratitude and appreciation to all those who made this event such a resounding success. To begin with, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Ms. Prachi Mishra, the esteemed speaker of today's session, for rendering her valuable insights. I thank you, ma'am. I would like to thank Professor M.K. Bhandari, Director, GALTER, for organizing this session and also for giving me this opportunity to not only be a part of this session, but also to host it. I thank you, sir. Finally, I would like to thank all the participants of this session who spared time from their busy schedule to grace this event with their presence. It is your interest and enthusiasm that led to the success of this event. Once again, I thank you all.